even if we're using the no reading strategy, we can still answer this question, even though it's the second one in the passage. And that's because it's part of an evidence pair, so we may not have a line reference for question 43, but we do have multiple line references for question 44, and they're all near the beginning of the passage, which makes sense because that's how the passages are usually structured. It usually goes in order. So what we want to do here is just kind of follow the process, the QLC method, go in order, and try to just keep things as simple as possible. Narrow your focus to smaller ideas and smaller words, and this question becomes pretty easy. So the first place we want to do that is in the question itself. Let's make sure we understand what we're looking for as we go through the line references. So the question sounds very technical. Based on the passage, a significant advantage of the Venus flytrap's requirement for multiple triggers is that. Okay, boil it down, simplify it, right? What do we want? We want an advantage of multiple triggers. That's it. Honestly, if something sounds good, if something sounds like an advantage here, then that's probably going to be enough for me to at least consider the choice. So let's go to those line references now and see what kind of sense we can make of it. So first 3 to 7 is going to be right here. 3 to 7, A. Okay, closing its trap requires a huge expensive energy, and reopening the trap can take several hours, so Dionia, I don't know how to say that, only wants to spring closed when it's sure that the dawdling insect visiting its surface is large enough to be worth its time. So multiple triggers for closing, well, maybe it's because there's a lot of energy involved. I don't know. I don't know if that's right, but it seems like an advantage is that it wants to save energy. So I'm going to keep it for now and just see what comes of it. I don't need to make a decision on my answer choice just right now. I'm just looking for something that kind of matches with the question. 7 through 11, next line here. 7 through 11, B. The large black hairs on their lobes allow the Venus flytraps to literally feel their prey, and they act as triggers that spring the trap closed when the proper prey makes its way across the trap. Okay, so definitely talks about the triggers, so they can feel. I don't know. It feels like it's more just describing how the triggers work and not really saying an advantage of them, but maybe there's something to the feeling the triggers, feeling the prey. I really don't know, but that's okay. I'm just going to keep it and see what happens next. 11 through 14. All right, we're really just going in order here. If the insect touches just one hair, the trap will not spring shut, but a large enough bug will likely touch 2 hairs within about 20 seconds, and the signal springs the Venus flytrap into action. So maybe an advantage of the multiple triggers is you get bigger bugs, the size of the bugs. I don't know. And 16 through 18. That is here. First, the flytrap encodes the information, forms the memory that something, it doesn't know what, has touched one of its hairs. Okay, well, this is definitely wrong. This isn't saying an advantage. This is literally just describing how the mechanism works. I need something that talks about why this mechanism is good, not just a description of the mechanism. So that's a good example of something that happens a lot on science passages when we have evidence pairs, is we have trouble distinguishing between choices that tell me what I already know, in this case, that there's multiple triggers, and choices that tell me why what I know is important. So why is it an advantage? That's what I'm looking for. I want a why choice. I almost always want a why choice when I'm answering these questions. And as you practice, you'll get better at noticing when there's a what versus a why. And the what choices can be traps because they usually involve a lot of the same words that appear in the question. But that's why they're traps, because we already know all that information. We need new information that answers the question. So that's okay. I've got 3 of these left. Maybe all of them have some sort of advantage, but only one of them is going to match with a choice in question 43. So now we're just looking for similar ideas that match up. So what do we have? So choice A, it enables the plant to identify the species of its prey. Well, we did talk about the triggers helping the plant know when to spring shut. But there's a very strong phrase here. Let me use a different color here. So enables the plant to identify the species. That's super strong. Did we ever talk about the plant knowing specifically what species of insect it has? No, it feels the prey. it's looking for the proper prey, whatever that might mean, but it seems like it only is about size if it's large enough to hit multiple hairs. But identifying the species, remember, it's a plant. How would it know? It doesn't know. I barely know what species I'm looking at half the time. So it doesn't know. It doesn't know. So that's way too strong. And that's how we can find the difference between a choice that's like kind of okay and one that absolutely fits, is we look for the things that go too far, that aren't actually in the passage. There's no evidence that the Venus flytrap can do this kind of stuff. So B, it conserves the plant's calcium reserves. Well, that's a new word, calcium reserves. That didn't come up at all. We did talk about energy, but calcium, I don't remember seeing that. So maybe there's some sort of, maybe I missed somewhere where they talked about calcium and it's kind of referred to here somewhere, but it's not a good sign. So maybe you keep it just in case. But that's a very specific phrase, a very strong phrase that I'm not seeing. C, it safeguards the plant's energy supply. Well, they did talk about energy, right? Energy. So that seems like a match between here. So let's go back. What are they saying about energy? They're saying that it costs a lot of energy to close the trap, and reopening can take a long time as well. So they only want to close it when they're sure they're going to get something that's worth their time. So it's the triggers, the way that the triggers work, as a way of protecting the energy supply so it doesn't close accidentally or when there's no prey to eat. That seems like a much better match, right? So compare that to the calcium thing. There's clear reference to energy. There's no reference to calcium. So all things being equal, pick the one that actually has the evidence. And don't worry about the calcium thing. Let's look at D, though, just to be sure. It prevents the plant from closing before capturing its prey. Well, I have to think about that choice for a second. It prevents the plant from closing before capturing its prey. Well, closing is how it captures its prey. So if it closes, it is capturing its prey. It's the same action. This is saying that first it captures, then it closes. No, these are not two separate events. They're the same event. It closes, and that is the capturing. So this is a weird choice. Hopefully you picked up on the weirdness of what it's saying. I get why some people might pick it. It has a lot of those key words. They're just strung together in a way that doesn't make sense. We're not really talking about time, though, right? We're not really putting events in some sort of chronology. I mean, I guess there's multiple triggers. First it hits the one hair, and then it hits another, but capturing and closing are the exact same mechanism. So this choice is just completely confusing the science here. So there we go. We're down to B and C, and like I said, C is the much safer bet because it actually mentioned energy supplies in line reference A. So there you go. Those are the answers. Another thing, though, that helps that helped us here is that we used the no reading strategy, right? We didn't read the entire passage. I didn't, at least. I'm only focusing on the lines that this question is having me look at. I'm going to read the passage as I answer the questions. I've made a very long video lesson about the no reading strategy. I highly recommend it. But one of the advantages of the no reading strategy is it prevents us from picking answers that use information from other parts of the passage, right? So the rest of the passage is going to talk about calcium. So if we read the passage first, we might have that idea on our brains, and suddenly choice B here is a much more tempting answer. By not reading, we have a little bit of an advantage because we haven't cluttered our brain with this extra science-y stuff. Later, it will matter, but right now, that calcium idea, I don't see that anywhere in any of these lines. So we avoided a trap just by not reading the whole passage first. So you may feel like you're missing information if you use the no reading strategy. But that's kind of the point, is that we don't want more information than is absolutely necessary to answer the question. So we avoid traps by not having too much information. It's a great strategy. I use it all the time, and it absolutely works.